Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack, back again to bring you Mythic Tichondrius, some of my thoughts and some tips and tricks that'll help you down the boss as well. Now, for this fight, I took Trail of Light, and this is the only fight that I've actually taken Trail of Light on. All of the other fights have been taking Piety and Benediction and Divinity, so nothing new on those end. But for Trail of Light on this fight, I think it's the one fight in particular that really deserves it, and you really should look at running it, just because of the high amount of single target healing that needs to be put onto about 3 or 4 targets. So for us, the fight starts off pretty similarly. You still have the brands to deal with. There still is a lot of damage to deal with, and we do recommend popping brands until the very end of the phase, just so that you're able to get people topped off, and that you're not going to have any kind of accidental explosions later on in the fight. It's very easy in, say, the bat phases to pop these, and somebody's going to die as a result. So any kind of control that you have over it, and any kind of raid cooldowns and innervates and stuff like that that you're able to pop just to better deal with these things makes life a lot easier later on in the fight. Like I said, we will not pop them at the end of the fight because there are going to be only a handful of them, as opposed to just about everybody getting them in the raid if you decide to never ever pop them. So keep in mind those differences, and in particular the Echoes of the Void shouldn't be too much damage for you to deal with. It always depends on how you're allocating the raid group just to be stacking behind them, because you don't want to have too many people behind a pillar, because then the pillar will fade away much more quickly. So again, it's one big thing to keep in mind. Of course, popping brands is a great time for your raid cooldowns, like I was saying, so usually my hymn was on the 3rd one going out, and then I'm focusing right back onto the rogues and the tanks who are soaking the Seeker Swarm. So usually on Heroic or something like that, you would just be healing through the people who have the Seeker Swarm. The debuff would fall off when you go into the bat phase or something like that. For this, we are having our rogues and our tanks soaking them up, which means they need a lot of extra healing. So it's always going to be a priority to be healing those targets up as fast as you possibly can, and getting them out of any kind of dangerous zone or anything like that. So we usually just had a rogue stand in front of the boss, not a problem, and then we start healing through them. They're able to pump out a lot of damage reduction for themselves, but they will need a lot of external help. So the biggest danger comes during the Echoes of the Void, when you may have some healers that are not always in range of them, so you kind of have to trade off with your healers to say, okay, are you in range of them now, or are you not? Something like that. And they still will be taking a lot of damage as you are going down into the bat phase. So keep that in mind. That you still will need to be healing them. They still will be a focus. They still will be a priority. And it is extremely dangerous for them, because if they get hit by, say, one of the lasers going out, they can very quickly die. So do whatever you can to kind of keep these guys topped off. Of course, in the bat phase, we want to get people their buffs as fast as possible. If you do not get your buff, you will die. Keep that in mind. And then we come right back out, and the phase basically just starts up again. As you start getting more adds, or as you start to have to worry about some of the arcane debuffs, the biggest thing to kind of keep in mind is that the debuffs, the void zones on the ground, especially, are not a huge deal if you do not get them in place. The biggest thing is the Seeker Swarms, getting people to the middle of the room. So right there I'm using my life group just to make sure that people are getting into the middle of the room for the Seeker Swarms, and people are popping the brands when they should be popped. Because if you have, say for example, druids or shamans who are popping their the raid cooldowns in advance in preparation for this damage, well, you want them to actually get value out of it. You want to make sure that the healing effect of it is going to be happening as fast as you possibly can, because when they are not healing the raid, there's going to be a ton of single target healing for them to do. So you'll see many times where we are not solely focusing on the bloods. We are kind of chipping them down when we can, so the tank damage will be very high. And the fact that they are absorbing, and maybe find some cases where our bear tank had times where he had the bloods and he had the carrion plague that he was dealing with. So there's huge amount of raid damage, huge amount of single target damage. I'm sorry. Is going to be on, 1 or 2 people. And if you're not topping them off, if you're not focusing them as intently as you possibly can, so like right here I'm focusing both tanks and one of the rogues, getting them out of the danger zone, if you do not focus on them, you're losing your soakers, and at the end of the fight you're just going to run into a ton of issues. So dropping, say, your arcane void zones and stuff like that, it will take a lower priority than putting your, say, Seeker Swarms in the right spot and getting people topped off where they need to be, all that other stuff. So right here, like I said, is the example of Our bear tank has the bloods, our bear tank also has the carrion plague, and it's just a huge amount of focus that you need to put into them, especially when you get into this Echoes of the Void phase. So you'll see for me, I'm focusing on the tank, and I'm focusing on the rogue, and that is my entire priority, you know, in that phase, because nobody should be taking damage for Echoes of the Void that will kill them, basically. If they are, then they're standing out of range, or the priority and how you're stacking your groups behind pillars is incorrect. Going down into the bat phase again, like I said, it's extremely important just to get your buff in general, but keep in mind that the buff that you get starts when you pick it up, and the duration does not start ticking down until you leave the phase. So I picked up the buff now, you can see it with my weak aura, and you see that that is not ticking down until I start leaving the phase, and this is where it starts ticking down. So the earlier you can get it, the more mana that you're getting, the more damage that you're getting if you're DPS, stuff like that. So it's extremely, extremely important, but you don't want to take it from, say, your boomkins, because your boomkins are the ones responsible for killing all these bats in the first place, right? So we would just have our best AoE people popping the buffs whenever they got them. They would be the first priority to get them, and then the healers and then the other less AoE centric DPS would start getting them after them. As we're entering into the later phases of the fight, of course, you're going to be having the ads with the Burning Soul debuffs going out. We were talking about this in the past of having just whoever got marked by it dispelling it because of the mana burn effect, but we honestly found many times that the damage that you get from that you put out on other people by dispelling the Burning Soul is not that heavy in comparison to, say, losing 20-25% of your total mana. So my recommendation would be dispel the Burning Soul as quickly as you can. Try to stay more spread out in this phase, just in general, because we didn't get any kind of Burning Souls when we're stacking up behind Echoes, for example. They usually happen after Brands, after Echoes and stuff like that. So already trying to be more spread out in general, because of course we're not soaking any Brands at this point. And what we are soaking, or what I am soaking, is the Seeker Swarm right here. Rather than having a tank get it, rather than having a rogue get it, I have my legendary cloak, so they asked me if I could just pop the Seeker Swarm at this time and just soak it all up so we didn't have to deal with it, and it mitigates so much damage, millions and millions of damage, just because I'm able to use my legendary cloak, pop angel form, something like that, and have an easy sacrifice, because there already is the damage on the tanks just from the boss itself and from all the bloods going out, and there is just tons of damage just from the Carrion Plague. So right after I get out of angel form, of course, our tank gets the Carrion Plague that he's soaking up, and from here it's just a straight up burn. Keep everybody alive, not stack up your Echoes, or sorry, not stack up any of your Brands as you're soaking Echoes, and you're getting there and you're killing the boss. This fight was a lot of fun, just in general. I think one of the biggest things is how we are able to prioritize single target healing, and how we kind of traded off responsibility for the rogues, for example, where I'm out of range of somebody else, but one of my healers, or having like your paladin with Rule of Law, being able to keep in range of the rogues at all times makes life so much easier. Of course, if you like this video and stuff like that, you can always check out the logs for the fight below, but be sure to drop a like, subscribe, share it around, of course. Hope you all enjoy it, and I'll see you all next time.